Welcome back to the D1Softball Podcast, part of the Learfield family and Varsity Network. I'm Jenna and here's my co-host, Amanda Lorenz. And before we jump in, just a quick reminder. When you're out of town and want to keep up with live college sports, be sure to download the free Varsity Network app, available for both Apple and Android. Get your games on the go with the Varsity Network app. And the games on the go has been huge so far this year, Amanda. I feel like we've been multi-screens trying to keep up with all the softball that's been going on.
Yeah, and excited about it because there has been so much good softball early. So at least it's been good softball to watch.
Oh, yeah. And we are barely scratching the surface. I can't believe it's only 3 weeks in and we still have so much more softball to talk about.
Thank goodness.
So for today's lineup, we'll talk through the new top 25 rankings and we'll talk about week 3, including the Mary Nutter Collegiate Classic. Then we'll head into an interview with Duke pitcher Cassidy Curd. We're thrilled about it, and end with plays of the week and our win and whiff of the week. All right, let's head into it. Let's start off with our top 25. A heavily discussed thing every single week are the polls, the national rankings that we have, and we have some updates this time around. So if we take a look at what that poll actually looks like, a new number 1 in town, Oklahoma. I know the fans are going to be thrilled about this because, yes, they have won back-to-back national championships, but now they're actually in that top spot. They're still undefeated. Texas and Florida right behind them. Those 3 have been at the top really for most of the season, for the whole season so far. And then Texas A&M shooting up there into the top 5 along with LSU. And some changes as well. We see Alabama there down at 25. They enter the polls. And South Carolina, another undefeated team, jumping up to 21. Just a few highlights to call out. And as well as Arizona, take a look in the top 10. Florida State in that number 10 spot. So lots of things to digest from this. Still multiple conferences represented, still led by the SEC. But when you look at this, Amanda, immediate gut reaction.
Yeah, my immediate gut reaction is OU is undefeated, so it makes sense why they are 1. And then as far as the Texas and Florida to follow, I actually think Florida I'm not trying to be biased here. I think Florida should be 2 and Texas 3 because Florida has a loss to a really good Duke team. And then obviously Texas has lost to Stanford. Obviously Stanford's a very good team as well, but as far as rankings go, Duke higher than Stanford. So the losses comparing them, I think that the Florida loss makes a little bit more sense than the Texas loss at a neutral site to Stanford. So I know that, Florida losing at home, but it's not like Texas was losing away. They were losing in a neutral spot. So that's my gut. And then A&M high. Like I can't remember the last time A&M has been this high, but they deserve it, right? Like they've had a really great season and have some really great wins, huge 2 wins coming in Tallahassee this weekend against Florida State. So yeah, those are my gut reactions. What about you, Jenna?
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? It's so early on in the season. And I think one of the questions that we get often is how do you look at strength of schedule versus just your wins and losses record and some of the stats, right? So you touched on that at all and a little bit, and it does get complicated. And I think to me, the answer is more complicated, might bring up more questions actually, because it can't be one or the other. You have to consider both, and how you balance it is tricky. So what I thought was interesting is, this is why, for example, RPI and Diamond Sports Ranking, DSR, exist. Because not all wins and losses are the same. That's why the metrics exist, because they integrate more factors, keeping those things in mind. But that's also why we just barely had our first release for DSR this season, because you need that data before you can actually start determining like what is a strong team. It's still being determined this early in the season. So an example of that, I mentioned South Carolina. At the time of us recording this, they're 15-0. But they haven't played a ranked team yet. So at the same time, they've had 9 straight run rules up until their game on Sunday. That can't be ignored. But you have to take a look at what that strength of schedule looks like. And then they do have the Duke series this weekend. I think that's going to tell us a lot because we need more softball. We need more data. But to your point with Oklahoma being in that top spot, the losses for Florida and Texas are not bad losses. I think that's important. OU just sticking with that undefeated mark, and they did beat, Baylor a couple of times. They have a couple of solid wins under their belt, but again, it's to be determined, really, in my view, for the rest of this season. The other thing I'll say is with Texas, Stanford, and Arizona, that tournament in Tucson was pretty insane this past weekend. It felt like that Spider-Man meme where there's three of them and they're all pointing at each other, looking at each other, because Stanford upsets Texas. Texas beats Arizona, but then Arizona beats Stanford not once, but twice. So I will say, I think Arizona is demanding some attention right now because they also took Texas to extra innings, and that is not an easy feat.
No.
Yeah, lots to digest every single week, it feels like. But to your point, too, the neutral site versus the home field advantage, being truly on the road, all of those things also factors in. And we're going to see more and more of that as we're going to start to dip our toe into conference play, as at least the ACC starts this week. Whew, man, what a time. The other thing that I'll actually add before I forget as well is Alabama splitting games with Virginia Tech. I did want to call that out because they lost to the Hokies, but then they run-ruled them on Sunday. To do that in a short time, it's always interesting to me when people play each other twice. Same with that Stanford-Arizona matchup. It's interesting for us to get a glimpse into how different approaches and making adjustments can change things moving forward.
Totally.
Now, with that said, there's plenty for us to talk about from just week 3 overall. So why don't we get into that? We've touched on it, but the week 3 recap next. Mary Nutter, obviously one of the biggest tournaments. 31 teams actually participated in this tournament in Southern California, in Cathedral City every year. You and I both played in this tournament, and I know you were tuning in to some of the big games. Did it bring back memories, first of all, for you to see those fields?
Yeah, I think it's almost like nostalgia because I remember going when I was young, like going to watch. I feel like it's a lot of where my college softball dreams, were born, of going and watching these amazing athletes up close and personal. It's a really fun place and definitely very close. So you feel like you're definitely in the action. It's almost like a travel ball tournament, just with all these like top 10 teams. So definitely unique, but just so fun.
So true, actually. We had, as you all know, Sachelle Palacios was our guest correspondent, one of the members of our team at the tournament. And she and I are both from Southern California, as you are, Amanda. So we were talking about that a lot, how it feels almost like travel ball. You run into people you played with growing up, not just college teammates or, in her case, pro teammates, but people you knew from back in the day. And it's just this big community walking around there at Big League Dreams. So that part of it is definitely fun, too.
Absolutely.
And a couple teams who really stood out, getting to see them in person was really cool as well. But Oregon going undefeated, 3 ranked wins. To me, they were this like SEC slayer. They beat Tennessee, which was a huge win in extra innings. They beat Mizzou, a couple of ranked teams, plus San Diego State, another ranked team. But then also this former Pac-12 predator, because they beat Cal and they beat Utah. But in actuality, now with the realignment, 4 different conferences that they were able to get wins over teams representing them. So I was very impressed by the Ducks, and I think they sent a message out, certainly, to the national landscape of college softball.
Absolutely. Some gritty wins too, like that 1-0 win against Tennessee, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but just Carlin Pickens, that's not easy to grind through, whatever that means. It felt like a postseason win. Like, doesn't matter how we're going to do this. We're just going to keep grinding until we make something happen. And then, also winning against San Diego State, who has been really, really good this year. Big win against Missouri. So yeah, like you said, just a lot of different conferences that they went after, but definitely It definitely feels like that number next to their name could be higher as the season continues to move along. It just they're doing a really good job competing and doing it like they're just gritty. Like it was really fun to watch their games, to grind through some wins. Like that's the kind of stuff that you can't prove in practice that is going to happen. You just kind of hope it's going to come to fruition. It really felt like postseason for them, of just like, let's go. Like, and it was fun to watch.
Yeah, and that strength of schedule we're talking about, like they have some of those elements. And looking at the first Diamond Sports ranking release, we mentioned it earlier, but Oregon at number 11, if you factor in strength of schedule and all the other elements in DSR. So they're not only are they winning, but they're facing some solid teams. So they're in a good place right now. But then Duke as well, undefeated, beat 3 different conferences, teams from three different ones. 2 ranked wins. They had the top 10 win over UCLA, of course, to end their weekend. And then they also beat Nebraska, but they got a win over a third Big Ten team as well with Minnesota, which I'm sure makes Mercy Young pretty happy, as one of the best to ever do it in the circle for the Big Ten in her day at Michigan. But then also they beat a BYU from the Big 12 and Howard from the MEAC. So again, a productive trip out to California for the Blue Devils too.
And they allowed 1 run.
Yeah.
Howard scored 1 run in their 5 games. They won 3-0, 13-1, 1-0, 2-0, 1-0. Wow. Like that's the most impressive part about me. I don't care who you're playing, like to only allow 1 run in 5 games is really impressive. I remember during my time at Florida, I can't count how many times I heard Coach Walton say to Coach Rocha, if they can't score, they can't win. So putting a lot of pressure on the pitching staff, like making sure, they don't score any runs. Okay. Duke is definitely carrying that vibe. Like we only need 1 run. So that's so impressive to go travel, like which we'll hear later on. They went straight from Gainesville to California, so they had been on the road for a really long time. Going across the country puts a lot on your body. Not sleeping in your own bed, you're out of your routine, X, Y, and Z. Like they were probably having to find some random weight rooms to try and get some lifts into. Like, so really, it's really more impressive than we think. Like them allowing only 1 run through the 5 games at the Nutter.
100%. Shout out to the pitching staff, and obviously Cassidy Curd, who we'll talk to in a bit. It's insane to think about. And you know what? With that being said, let's take a look at the D1Softball All Tournament team for Mary Nutter, because Cassidy Curd is on there as well. She was one of the most valuable pitchers alongside Lindsey Grine, who is absolutely insane in the circle as well for Oregon. We talked about how they're undefeated, 5-0. 4 of those wins were Lindsey Grine. She actually pitched in all 5 games as well. And then Riley McCoy, she led the tournament with 4 home runs. So she, the tournament MVP for Oregon at the top. But then you take a look at the rest of these names. This is only half of it. 3 from Tennessee, 3 from Nebraska. They're leading the way with the most representation. Don't forget Anna Gold over there too, from Duke. So a couple from the Blue Devils, and then UCLA, Arkansas too. And then Shaylin Gavon, I saw her hit a home run, and you just knew right off the bat. She flexed a little bit. Like, I don't know if it's a bat flip when you kind of just toss it to the side. I guess it counts, but it was insane. And then the other half includes, Washington, Nevada, Long Beach State, Cal, Oregon State, CSUN, Riverside, San Jose State, Seattle, St. Mary's, and of course, San Diego State and BYU. So many people included. 19 out of the 31 teams that were there at Mary Nutter are represented on this all tournament team. And I will tell you, as somebody on staff who contributed to the thoughts and the insights that went into this, it was incredibly difficult to narrow it down because there were so many great performances. But the data from our friends at 643 Charts, who also produce the DSR rankings every week moving forward in the season, was huge, because it's all the basic stats for both pitchers and for hitters. But then you look at things like batter score, you look at things like game score for pitchers, and it factors in, what their overall impact is in each game, in each scenario. So again, adding those other factors as well to take a look at some new angles for performance. So that helped inform all of this, but just had to give a shout out to all of these players for their great performances in Cathedral City. Incredibly impressive. But I also have to say, Amanda, one of my favorite things, and you tell me, I'm pretty sure you agree. One of the best things at Mary Nutter are the dogs everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
The dogs and all of the little girl, like so many autograph opportunities, dogs and the young girls running up for autographs are my favorite part.
So many people we talked to and that Seychelle talked to, including the pros like Rachel Garcia, she interviewed. That's one of the first things they bring up is they were the little girl running up for autographs. So now that they're kind of on that other side, whether they're pros or they're the college players or USA softball members, it's just got an extra special place in their heart. So just witnessing a lot of that was really fun to see as well. It's like you said, it's one of the coolest parts of the tournament.
The best.
Yeah. Also, I got to give a shout out to the concessions because funnel cakes, I mean, top tier.
I can smell the tri-tip sandwiches from here. Like that's what I miss the most. Like the tri-tip sandwiches at the Nutter are next level, you guys.
Oh yeah, definitely had one. Definitely had one for dinner.
Jealous. I'm so jealous.
It was amazing.
So good.
So good. The shaved ice was great. That's just such a vibe when it's like warm out for softball season too, you know, and there was ice cream that was delicious. Taco truck, highly recommend too, because it was just all delightful being on this side of it.
There's a really compelling argument to say, like, is the food better at the Nutter or is the softball better?
Oh,
like that's a really good argument of like which one is better because they're both so elite.
They are. The whole experience. That's why it's one of the best tournaments, right? But like 100%. I didn't even mention kettle corn and like some of the other thing, like so many options here. And then, you know, for the adults, there is a bar in the middle of all the fields so they could get their adult beverages. I saw a lot of micheladas walking around.
I was about to say, going back for my first time as a fan, I had a michelada and I was like, wow, this is where it's at.
Yes. Exactly. So 21 and older. But all the parents, you know, because we're not paying attention to those things when we're playing in it. But when you see like the fans and the parents, and some of them are stressed, so they're like ordering something at the bar and then going back to the field to watch, you know, it is pretty funny to see, you know, just how much they care, really.
So good.
So good. The other thing that was cool to see in person to Tori Tyson. So you mentioned Howard scored a run against Duke, by the way, the only run in the tournament. Tori Tyson, their fearless leader. It was the first Mary Nutter for Howard for the program that she's leading. And they played against her alma mater too with Nebraska and Rhonda Revelle. So there were tears, there were hugs, and she talked with Seychelle after. And she's just one of the most inspirational people ever. The way she talks, you're always just so fired up and ready to tackle life after speaking with her. So take a look at that interview on our social channels too.
Yes, couldn't agree more. She definitely inherited some good stuff from her parents, but anybody who's played for Marty or against Marty Tyson knows that there's always some good nuggets that are thrown. But every time I'm around him, like I did not play for him, played against him a bunch, I'm constantly laughing. Like he is so hysterical, and I know that Tori got a lot of that too.
Oh yeah, and they showed up. The Tyson clan showed up. I mean, she's a California kid too, right? The Corona Angels organization. So many people are familiar with it, and they were traveling in quite the big pack, and I loved it.
So good.
Oh man, so fun. So fun. And then just the families too, I would say. So we've talked about, you know, a lot of the ambiance and things, but seeing the kids, the little kids too, not just the girls who are asking for autographs, but, you know, for example, we were about to interview head coach Chelsea Spencer from Cal. And we actually run into the associate head coach, Brandon Telesco's wife, Marissa Stankiewicz. She played at ASU, actually with Seychelle. They have the cutest little toddler running around in his California Golden Bears little tiny t-shirt, you know, and just you could tell he thinks the girls are his team, and he's just so bought in at such a young age. And I think seeing that, I guess you could call it indoctrination, but like we're here for it. was really adorable too.
Ugh, so good.
And some of your people, Amanda, AUSL, some presents. They were in the house. Kim Ang, we got to talk with her. That interview is great as well if you want to check that out on our social channels. But just the presence that we're seeing from people who are invested from the top down. I guess that must be really cool for you to know that there's that bridge between the two.
Yeah, totally. I think that's the goal, right? Like we want there to be many opportunities for these amazing college softball players to continue to play professionally if they want to, and know that opportunity is there. So the fact that there are definitely like close eyes with the AUSL, like wanting to be at these tournaments and get their eyes on these athletes is really important, because we want to keep growing this thing and making sure that there's more opportunities for these amazing athletes to play after college.
Yes, definitely. And it was the GM of the Blaze, Dana Sorensen, was there. In addition to, of course, Lisa Fernandez is the GM for the Talons, but she's coaching with UCLA. There was just so much crossover. A lot of assistant coaches like Danielle Gibson for Arkansas, Sydney Romero for Oregon. They're all AUSL signed. Gibby most recently too, which is exciting as a free agent. But to see the crossovers, it's everything we've wanted. So you could feel the optimism for the future of the sport, but also people having the opportunity beyond softball to play, like you've been able to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we could talk about Mary Nutter forever, because you use the right word, Amanda, elite, to describe a lot of the things around the tournament. But what else kind of around the country stuck out to you this past weekend?
I think we touched on it a little bit earlier, but just what was going down in Tucson. There were some really, really great games in Arizona this week, having Stanford, Texas, all at Arizona. So I had my eye over there for sure, just watching those games. I thought it was awesome, and you never knew, like, we'll hear from Cassidy Curd as well, of just, you never know, the game does not know who is supposed to win. And I think that was on full display in Arizona, just how competitive and amazing those games were. And the fact that the thin air and a lot of balls go out makes it really entertaining for someone that loves home runs.
Yeah, I don't know if the pitchers would agree. Like, I know Kenzie Fowler, for example, not a huge fan of that, but yes, the ball flies in Tucson.
It must be a hard sell. Like, if you're a pitcher and getting recruited to go to Arizona, that's a hard sell.
It is. So you got to give credit to them. Like Kenzie, Tucson girl, right? So, okay. Yes. Easier sell in that regard. But yes, credit to the recruiting efforts there, because we've had some great pitchers. So yeah, that tournament was especially interesting to watch too. Definitely had that pulled up while watching Mary Nutter. Multi screens. That's the time of year that we're in right now, for sure. And I would be remiss if I didn't bring up UNF. Allison Benning swept the ASUN Conference Honors for Player and Pitcher of the Year. It's actually the second time in her career that she's done that at the same time, same week, because her stat lines were absolutely insane. So offensively, she hit 700. She was 7 for 10, 3 home runs, 8 RBIs, 11 intentional walks. And she actually hit a home run off of what was supposed to be an intentional walk against Cornell. That was insane.
Yes.
And then 2.757 OPS on the weekend. What? Like, that is not normal.
Stupid.
So stupid in the best way.
Yes.
And pitching 2-0 record on the weekend, 12 innings pitched, 15 strikeouts, no runs given up, only 1 hit. And she did have a perfect game against Siena in the finale for the weekend. So I think safe to say pitching coach Amber Pfizer is proud. She's made that known on Twitter too.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And fun fact, in the circle, our colleagues, Eric Lopez and Victor Anderson, they'll have Allison on as a guest this week on their podcast. Awesome. Yes. So check that out when that episode comes out. And actually, Eric's going to get to see Benny, as they call her, in person at the UCF tournament this weekend too. So amazing. Lots of exciting stuff. It's coast to coast, which I freaking love that we have that in softball. It's great. Well, with all that said, now it's time. We've been talking about it. We've been teasing it a little bit, but let's go ahead and talk with Cassidy Curd. We are joined by Duke softball ace, 2024 ACC champion, and 2023 D1 Softball freshman All-American, but maybe most notably, went to the program's first ever Women's College World Series last year and looking to go again this year, Cassidy Curd. Cassidy, thank you for joining us. Your background is outstanding.
Thank you so much. They brought me up in the press box and gave me a fancy backdrop. So
look at you now. I love that. And you have had just an absolutely outstanding season so far. And this past weekend at Mary Nutter, you actually surpassed 350 strikeouts on your career and just over 300 innings pitched. When you look at all of that, what do you think is sort of I don't know if it's the secret sauce, but what do you think the real things are that actually got you there?
Yeah, I think that, it's definitely a little overwhelming just looking at the numbers as a whole. But I think my team, I talk about them all of the time in every single interview that I do. And I just can't commend them enough for the support that I get from my freshman year to up until this year. Like, it's unwavering and it's consistent. And I know that no matter what, I have incredible people to fall back on. We have the most tight-knit community and the most tight-knit staff. And I think that shows in everybody's performance.
I love it. I think, obviously Duke softball program, super young, but immediately had goals of making it to the World Series and has had some great pitchers and great athletes come through. But it seemed like you were that missing piece to finally get them there. So after going for the first time and in program history, is that the new standard? Is that what you're looking to do this year, or what's the vibe?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the thing we do best is just taking things one day at a time. We had a meeting early on in the spring, like before preseason started when we got back from break. And something that really stuck with me that Coach Young talked about is how we're obviously a really young team. This is Team 8. The program hasn't been around even a decade yet. And she brought up the point that players on like Team 1 through 4, they planted seeds for trees that they would never see the shade under. And I think that was something that really resonated with me and how those girls kind of laid the foundation for this program to be what it is. And I had the ability, and I was lucky enough to play with some of the girls from Team 4. And I think that just speaks volumes to the type of community that Duke has. And absolutely, this is a new standard for us. We went last year, and obviously like incredible experience for all of us, but still have a lot left to prove, and we're off to a really hot start this season. But I think we all kind of acknowledge that nothing that happens in the preseason carries over. The game of softball doesn't know who's supposed to win or who's going to win, and softball doesn't care about the previous weekends or anything like that. So I think our main focus is coming back this week, getting our head back on straight, understanding that we have good games coming up, and kind of just taking it one day, one game at a time, and enjoying each other.
You dropped so many gems in there. I almost don't even know where to start. But
I ramble.
No, that was not rambling. That was inspo in my book. But you mentioned, first of all, Coach Young talking about a young team. I see what you did there. But also the fact that you all call her Marissa. And in Marissa we trust with head coach Marissa Young. Talk to me about the Riz that she has and where that came from.
Yeah, that was actually our alum all came up with that. And when they came here when they came for the ACC tournaments, every single one of them had like a 90s graphic tee that said Marissa Young. And I remember taking the field and seeing our group of alum, and I was like, what is on your guys' shirts? And yeah, it was a 90s graphic, all customized of Coach Young. And it's the most incredible thing ever. But I think that this program is Coach Young. Obviously wouldn't be here without her. And she gets recognition, obviously, for everything that she's done. But I don't think it'll ever be enough for the personal stuff that she goes through off the field. And obviously the situation with Coach James and how she's been navigating that with so much grace and resilience, and how she still shows up every single day here for us present. I've never ever felt like Coach Young has not been with us when she's with us, if that makes sense, which I don't know how she's even capable of that. She has so much on her plate all the time. But yeah, she's incredible in everything that she does. She's the best leader, I think, anybody my age could ask for or look up for. Her and I have definitely got closer this past year and had some really good conversations just about how we want to like grow in our relationship together. Obviously, I came in as a freshman, and I mean, relationships with head coaches, I think, are a little bit intimidating at times. But her and I have lately just had the most like heartfelt, like intentional conversations. And we talk about our faith. That's something that's really big here at D1Softball. And we talk about how we want to grow in that and kind of just use the platforms that we have, and while we have them, to kind of like emulate our Christianity and our faith and emulate God and the things that we do on and off the field. And she's incredible. I can't speak highly enough about her. She's awesome. Love
Gosh. Mic drop, right? I think that's like the most beautiful compliment you can pay to your head coach, but especially leading young females. I mean, what an incredible example she is of a working professional, a mom, of all the things, of doing it seems like everything right. And not this past weekend before, you guys got to travel down to Gainesville and play her daughter, play against the Gators. Yes. So I'd love for you, one, we can talk about just, not great first game against the Gators, but then rebounding and having an amazing second game against them. And then also the family piece of just being able to play her daughter. And I saw some really cool family pictures of everyone together. Just definitely tugs at my heartstrings a little bit to see them have that moment. So I'd love to hear some insider scoop on all of that.
Yeah, I think the family piece was awesome. I'll touch on that first. I mean, obviously I played with Layla growing up, as did a lot of my teammates. And Coach James was our coach also. So it was kind of like a big family reunion, and to see her like reach this pinnacle of Layla, like she's been wanting to go to Florida for years, and to see her there and so happy. And granted, the game Friday, I'll admit, stung a little bit. But to see her there and so happy with teammates that she loves and adores, and to be able to see from our perspective on this side of it, like how proud Coach Young is of her kids. I mean, JoJo, Layla, Braylon, Kaden, like all four of them, they're all incredible. And she is a spectacular mom. We obviously get a little bit of the motherliness, her being our head coach, but to see like how proud she was to see Layla over there and their little interactions when she'd walk over and go coach third base. And I remember there was one point where Layla like was charting and dropped a pen, and Coach Young went over there and picked it up and handed it to her. And we were all like, Coach Young, hey, what are you doing?
Lock in.
Yeah, you're our mom right now. But no, it's just like all those little things, and to see like just kind of everything to come to fruition. Coach Young is coaching at a spectacular school and doing amazing things, and Layla is also at an amazing school doing amazing things. So it was cool to just see both sides of it from us, and then to see Coach James and JoJo and all of them in the stands was awesome. And it was just such a heartfelt moment, and to see them all taking pictures after the game together. And obviously Nana and Pops were there too, so it was the entire family was there, and it was awesome for us all to see. But yeah, it's an incredible like accomplishment on both sides. So it was like we love Layla, we love Coach Young, and to see them both. When I was when Layla was up to bat in the game on Sunday, I was getting pitch calls from Coach Young. I was like, does she actually want me to throw this?
Who is she rooting for right now?
Who is she rooting for? I was like, I know she wouldn't be mad if she got a hit, but no, Coach Young is a competitor through and through. So I knew when she was calling, I was like, all right, you know what? You probably know your daughter better than I do, so I'll throw what you call it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And then as far as the game Friday and Sunday, yeah, I think Friday, I personally, I was trying to do a lot in that game, and I had a conversation with Coach Young about the things I was feeling off the field or on the field, and I couldn't necessarily pinpoint it. I mean, I felt like I was throwing good pitches, and UF was just taking advantage. And when I did miss, and I missed big, they made it hurt. And it's almost, I was telling Coach Young, it's almost worse that I felt like I was throwing good spots to good pitches and they were hitting the balls hard. And granted, I mean, hats off to UF, a spectacular hitting team. And I was like, I don't know what I can do to beat them. So I kind of was dealing with that Friday, and her and I went back and watched some film at the hotel and kind of just acknowledged the fact that I was trying to do a little bit too much, more than I needed to. And I throw my best when I'm not worried about that. And I'm kind of just out there having fun with my team. And I told her on Sunday, I was like, Coach Young, I'm never letting one thing I'm not going to do is let a team beat me twice. If they beat me once, I mean, that's fine. But with the technology we have and all the advancements, I'm like, I'm going to watch film. I'm going to figure out how I fell short, what went wrong, and the things I need to do better moving forward. And I think that was a really big piece for her and I to kind of sit down and be like, okay, your curveballs weren't breaking as much as you thought they were on the field. And then since I wasn't commanding low in the zone on Friday, obviously my rise ball is kind of my chase pitch. But if I'm not commanding low in the zone and getting eyes down, then they're only sitting one spot. And then my changeup wasn't great on Friday. So not only were they sitting one spot, but they were also sitting one speed. So it was that conversation. And then before the game Sunday, I was like, Coach Young, I'm not letting him beat me twice. I'm going to do everything I can to go at these hitters. And I was a little nervous before the game just because, I mean, you get hit that hard by a team. You're like, all right, it's the last thing I want to do again. And not much can change in 2 days. I think the Florida hitters came with the plan and they executed that plan really well. So yeah, I was like, what do I need to do to change up my game? And I can't give them the same scouting report that I did on Friday. So I just worked on like little changes and tried to make it not as big as what I originally did on Friday. So just tried to command lower in the zone a little bit better and then let my spins run. And that was kind of my mentality shift from Friday to Sunday, was just kind of that unwavering confidence in myself and believing that no team can beat me twice and trusting my defense. Obviously, I posted on social media, especially after this weekend, that I think I have the best defense in college softball in the face of the planet. And one thing about those 8 girls that play on the field behind me is they're going to lay their hearts out on the field and they're going to give me everything. And the least I can do is give them everything back that I have. So that was my mentality.
Just so you know, I remember interviewing Coach Young last year, and I had asked her, since her daughters have been being recruited, obviously Layla at Florida, and then her other daughter going to UCLA, I was like, what is your mentality? What's your approach going to be when you play against them? And she said, no hesitation. She said, I'm out for blood.
Yeah.
So can confirm, who she was rooting for at the end of the day.
No, she definitely was. She told us pregame, what were her words exactly? I don't want to misquote her. I think she said, I want my get back. And we were all like, all right. All right. And then after the game, she was so high. She's like, I got my get back. And we were like, we got you, Coach Young. You celebrate. It was a whole family duel. So we were so happy that we were able to get that back for her. But out for blood is such a funny way to.
Literally, blood, family, right?
Yeah. Yep. And she did. Yeah.
Yeah, she certainly did. She did.
Awesome.
But going up against a team like that twice in such a short period of time, doing things like going to the first ever World Series for this program, a lot of that is defying the odds. And that's something that you talk about a lot. It's even in your IG bio on your social media pages. Why is that sort of mentality or that concept so important?
Yeah, I also have it tattooed on my ribs. But I think that defying all odds is something that my dad always said to me growing up. And I'm from Port St. Lucie, Florida, not a big softball community. I was kind of the only one really playing. I didn't play for a phenomenal high school. Like, we weren't competing for a state championship or anything like that. And I mean, my dad would drive me 2 hours down south to practice every Tuesday and Thursday. And my dad's a fire chief, so he works nonstop all throughout the week and gets called in middle of the nights and work and is in charge of so much stuff. And he took the time to drive me down south 2 times a week for practice when he already worked down south. So growing up, he always told me, like, continue to defy all odds. And I was told by a lot of people in my city, just the odds of you going to college are super slim. The odds of you playing at a high level, really small. I think I was told, like, the statistics once a week in high school by teachers, coaches, people that worked at my school, friends, like whatever it was. And every time I would talk to my dad about it, and I'd be like, Dad, like, and he was like, defy all odds. And that was kind of the thing that always brought me back to center and brought me back to myself. Just because odds are stacked up against everybody when you're looking at playing collegiately, and especially in a community that softball wasn't even a big thing as it is. And then I think just continuing to carry that into high school, when I started playing for a travel team and traveling and playing, for other schools, just kind of, you always hear that like nagging from back home about you're not going to make it big. And everybody's always heard those. Every college softball player has gone through that at some point or another. So yeah, I think that that's the thing I try to carry with me most throughout college. And then when I committed to Duke, everybody was like, why are you going there? The softball team's not that great. They're so young. Why? Like, I was like, well, look at us now. But yeah, so it's kind of just like my mentality. I want to carry it everywhere and everything I do, even if the odds are stacked up against me. I want to continue to defy them and push against them. And I think that it's one thing that actually really motivates me. I make this joke to Coach Young a lot of the times that I am kind of fueled by that. And sometimes I pitch well, like spitefully, not in a bad way, but like, I'm just like, you know what? You don't think I can? Like, watch. And yeah, just continuing to, I mean, that's almost the epitome of Duke softball. Like, odds were stacked up against us. We're young, but we're a tight-knit community. And I think we continue to put ourselves on the map and prove anybody wrong quite often. So yeah, that's kind of the story behind Defy All Odds. And it was one of my first tattoos that I got when I turned 18. My dad loves that he said it to me. He didn't love that I got it permanently on my body. But yeah, it's kind of just my like mentality, and it's something that I want to carry into the future, into the workforce, into hopefully a pro league, and wherever I end up in the future. It's something that I want to always continue to fight for.
Oh, so good. Play forever.
Yes.
Okay, I have to ask, just because the game was just so beautiful between you and UCLA. Just obviously you talked about your defense. And obviously with a 1-0 ball game, you're gonna have some great defensive plays. But I think that means that you were hitting your spots and things were working pretty well for you too, going up against one of the most elite offenses in the country and holding them to 0 runs. And all you needed was 1 to make it happen. So just wanted to hear like what specifically you think was working best for you in that game, other than your amazing defense.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest changes I've tried to make from my game last year is how heavily I relied on my rise ball last year. And it's the pitch I get the most swings and misses on. And I lean really heavily into that, and I kind of just chuck it up there. But I think that with the caliber of teams that we've played in this preseason, and we're going to continue to play this season, I can't just rely on one pitch up in the zone. And with Coach Young in the bullpen and the addition of Parker Staggs on our staff, I think that they kind of have like, all right, they kind of do a really good job of like bringing me back down, and they're like, you're good. This is how you're going to be better. And my mentality that game was I can't be as predictable as I have been in the past. I'm a rise ball pitcher. People know I'm a rise ball pitcher, and I throw harder. So I need to switch it up a little bit. My changeup wasn't working that game. If you saw the one that went over Jordan Woolery's head, did go straight to the backstop.
Better than right down the middle.
Yeah, you know what? And that's what Coach Young says. That's
and you
true.
Still threw it.
100%.
You still threw it. Yeah,
I did. Yeah, I did. I figured it out a little bit later in the game, but yeah, that's one of those where it comes out of my hand. And I look straight at Coach Young. Sorry.
You're just keeping them on their toes.
Yeah, exactly. And then I put one right down the middle of the next pitch, and it got taken. So
yeah, how was she supposed to know?
She didn't know where it was going next. I didn't either. So it was great. No, but yeah, that game my mentality was, okay, attack low in the zone, get ahead early. I mean, they're phenomenal hitters. Obviously, it's UCLA. They have one of the strongest offenses in the country. So yeah, I was attack low in the zone, and then expand up, try to get their eyes down, hunting something low. And then if they see something that starts breaking across their letters or across like their middle, make sure that it continues to get run. And then one of the other things I've tried to work a lot on this year is kind of getting pitches that break 2 planes. Because obviously I have the rise ball and the fast and a curve ball. But my biggest adjustment is trying to get something that spins up and out, up and in. I've started throwing a screwball a little bit this year. So kind of just getting different spin profiles so hitters can't sit one pitch, one speed as much. Yeah.
Well, this type of schedule that you're playing too, you played some great teams this past weekend at Mary Nutter, and the preparation going into ACC play, which starts actually before a lot of the other conferences do. Yeah. So you have a shorter runway to get ready. And now this year, couple more teams with Stanford and Cal. It's expanded. What are your thoughts on ACC softball, where it's come, how far it's come, and where it's going.
Yeah, I was actually just talking to one of my teammates, Jess Oakland, about this, and we were talking about ACC play and how ACC softball is kind of on fire right now. We're killing it on the map, and I mean, I think I'm so proud of the ACC. I love seeing the NCAA upsets that get posted from the ACC, and I think it's incredible. And I think that I'm really excited to see how it progresses. Obviously, I'm a little biased. I think we're the best in the ACC, but I think the ACC is awesome, and I think that the way it's progressed in the past couple of years, and just the kids that are in the ACC, and I mean, I love it. I think that we're definitely putting it on the map, and kind of getting loud and being heard.
And this week, home opener, opening up with Michigan, and then a home series against a hot South Carolina team. So what are you looking forward to most, just playing at home, and obviously the great competition as well?
Yeah, I think my entire team is so happy to be home. We went straight from Gainesville to California because of a snowstorm and some other things that kind of messed up our schedule. So we were gone for about 2 weeks. And now that we are back, we are so happy, and we're really excited to just play at home. I mean, we're kind of rolling out of preseason, and we're like, oh, we finally get our first home game. This is awesome. So we're all just excited to be back and play at our own field. I mean, now I'm like looking out at it, and I'm so excited to play here with our home fans. We have such an incredible like support system with our fans, and my parents are also coming this weekend. So excited to see them. But yeah, I think we're all just really looking forward to playing on our field. We all have really specific routines pregame. It's a really superstitious team. Extremely. So for everyone to be able to kind of do their own things and do what they do to feel the best and play the best on the field. But yeah, obviously big games this weekend. Big game Thursday. We always love playing Michigan because it's Coach Young's alma mater. So we always look forward to that game for her, and kind of just how everything is able to come full circle for her, and how she can play against the team that she played on is always really fun. But yeah, I think we're just excited, and I think we had to hit the reset a little bit. Obviously, we came off of a really hot weekend, but we have big games coming up, and one thing we're cognizant about, and we talk a lot about with the coaches, is not letting anything roll over. I kind of talked about this earlier, but just how the game of softball doesn't care how you played last week. And it's always about like how you come and show up next. So yeah, we're all kind of now transitioning into another week of play, watching new film, getting back into our routines, and how we're gonna come out with another 4 wins after the weekend.
And mentioning routines, you sort of have this thing that you do in the circle where you drop to one knee, kind of stick your finger in the air, and take that moment for yourself. I remember interviewing Jayla Wright last year on the D1Softball podcast, and she does the stiff arm, right, as you know, as her teammate, and that sort of helps her pause. For you, what is it about that moment that helps your routine?
Yeah, I think that is my time for me that I take on the field. I write one word that I've actually never told anybody and probably won't until I'm done playing softball. But it's kind of one word that connects my ability to play softball with my faith. And that's something that I'm really deeply rooted in. It's like my reset. I go out on the field, I get on one knee, and I kind of just take a minute to take in my surroundings. I remember the World Series when I did it. I took an extra second just to look around and kind of take a step back and be like, you're really here right now. But it gives me a second to thank God for where I am and the opportunities that I've been provided with, despite the odds, and just like bring me back to center. I think if I pitched without it, I would go insane. But it's my moment to just sit there and kind of connect with God. And yeah, I don't know when I started doing it. I think I started doing it in travel ball. Yeah, I think I started doing it in travel ball around like my junior year of high school or sophomore year of high school. And it's something that I've carried with me since. And the biggest thing that I want to do when I play is honor God and honor the abilities that he's given me and the people that he's blessed me with, and play every inning with that, no matter what the outcome is, no matter what goes on or off the field. I'm here, and I'm grateful and blessed and healthy. And yeah, it's just my little minute with God to kind of reconnect and kind of bring me back to what I'm playing for and why I'm playing and how I want his light to shine through me on the field.
Everyone needs a moment for themselves. I love that. And because I'm talking with you two today, two true lefties, I have to know. I feel like this is a special group to be a true lefty, not just someone who throws righty, who might hit lefty, but someone who's a true lefty. What is it like being a part of that special group?
I love being a lefty. I think it's so cool. My brother is also like a true lefty. So yeah, it's awesome. I think I'm actually the only lefty thrower on my team right now. So I think I'm pretty unique, pretty cool.
And elite. It's a different level of flex to be like, oh, you hit lefty but throw righty, you loser. Like,
You're
yeah,
not
I was born into this. I didn't have to learn to hit left-handed.
Try to write with your left hand right now. Bet you
Yeah,
can.
like I even eat my food with my left hand.
Yeah, it is such a flex. It's like, yeah, I can do everything with my left hand, and you look ridiculous sometimes.
Oh, you had to learn to do that? Oh, yes.
Oh, wow. Looks rough. Sometimes when we're in drills, Coach Young will just be like, Cassidy, you start at the back because she's like, you're going to mess everybody up. And I was like, well, I just do it better and cooler than everybody else. So.
Exactly. They can't have us go first because then we're going to show everybody up and set a new standard.
It would be embarrassing.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I think lefties are the best. So.
See, this is why I had to ask the question, obviously, with both of you here.
Great question.
We can actually count. That's it. The only question.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. No, I do have one more hard-hitting question for you, Cassidy. You have nails when you're playing. How do you pitch with your nails? I have to know.
I do actually. I just got them done yesterday.
Gorge.
Nice.
But I throw the ball off the side of my finger. I don't know how or necessarily why. I don't know if you can see. It comes off. I have a little blister, but I also just flipped you off. Sorry. But yeah, I throw every single pitch like a two-seam fast, and I put my fingers right on the laces. So every pitch I throw kind of just rolls out of the side of my hand, and as long as they're like pointier and not as square, they won't break. I've learned. So
see, these are the tips we need. I like
really
it.
Impressive.
Everybody,
yeah, the young ones need to know.
Yes. Yeah, everybody, if you throw bullet spin, just get almond shape on your nails. Not square.
And hydrate those hands so you can try to prevent blisters.
Yep. I carry a little piece of sandpaper around, and now I just I'll be in class and I'm just sandpapering my finger. Building calluses.
Girly. Gotta do. Well, on that note, Cassidy, this has been awesome. We're so happy to talk with you. It's been so fun watching you all season. We can't wait to watch the rest of the season as well, and just the rest of your career, because you're so fun to watch. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me, and I'm sure I will speak to you guys soon.
Thanks, Cass.
Thank you guys.
Well, we heard from Curd, and I think it was everything we hoped it would be, at least for me. I'm sure you feel the same way, Amanda.
I see what you did there, Jenna. Yeah, it was great. It was awesome getting to talk to her and getting to know her a little bit, just getting a little more inside scoop to that Duke program, but just love what's coming out of Duke this year so far, and can't wait to continue to watch her and the program do amazing things.
100%. And actually, got to give a shout out to Duke softball fan Regina, who I met in person at Mary Nutter, and she actually came up and requested, hey, can you please have Cassidy Curd on the podcast? And I was like, oh, she's on the list. Don't you worry. Don't you worry, ma'am. But just loved it. She said she listens every week. Amanda giving high praises too. So that was really, really sweet. But I know that she's happy with this episode. So just had to give her a little shout out.
Doing what the people want.
Obviously. Yes. Obviously. And speaking of what the people want, we love good plays. So why don't we come in hot with the plays of the week?
It's fine. You know, it's week 3 and I needed some offense in my life. So obviously I'm kicking us off this week with my play of the week. Gonna let this play. But yeah, I needed some offense. Finally giving my hitters some love.
2 away. And there's a drive to right field, and that is gone. Caden Henry with the 3-run blast. And Texas has extended their lead 8-4.
This game was so good. So of course, we're getting an extra inning, 3-run blast to seal the win for Texas. But Caden Henry coming from the left side, not a beautiful swing, but obviously just so much strength and the Arizona thin air of just like the perfect match of making something happen. But it was such a great game. And just, you know, I love a big time player coming up in a big time moment, making something happen, getting a 3-run lead for your pitcher heading back in to the bottom of the inning. So Caden Henry, beautiful.
Extra innings hit different.
Yes.
They just do. Yeah. And good point too you made earlier. Like they had just lost to Stanford. It was their first loss of the year. So I always like to look at how teams and players respond, and you know they did. So this was such a good choice. I loved it. Mine is on the defensive side. Amanda and I are on brand this week. You know, it's okay. Sometimes we just stay in our lane. You know, but such a good moment. I just need to let it play because no words when it happened.
And making the catch. What a way to end what's been a terrific back and forth ball game. And the celebrations begin for Burgess flying through the wall to capitalize on what will be one of the biggest wins of the Blue Devil season.
Remember that catch we saw by A&M in left field, the double catch earlier? We were like, might be the best catch of the year already. It's week 1. This might be giving it a run for its money. It was number 1 on SportsCenter too. Loved to see that for us. Yes. Our sport deserves it. But, you know, just incredible. I saw it in person and my jaw dropped, as did everybody else's. There's just so many things about it. You know, going over the fence, holding on the ball, it's not easy. I think about like a league of their own, right? When it's about like, did she drop the ball? Dottie Henson at the end. But also even, I think it was the third baseman, Doris Murphy, when she like goes over the fence and then like grabs someone's hot dog and takes a bite, you know, out of it. We love it. We love it. And because I was sitting in the restaurant area in the middle, I actually heard Duke fans in the table over immediately, no hesitation. They were like, Amaya's got this, right when it was hit. And I was like, are you sure? You know, and it just felt like even more of a flex because they weren't even surprised. That's why it was so cool.
And to like that sealed the win, like game ending play, the celebration of everybody going down the line to like hug her, like Cassidy Curd running all the way from the mound to like hug Amaya, like seriously so cool. Like just like you said, this is maybe a play of the year nominee. Like it was just so big time, and I absolutely loved it. Like when you sent that play over, like my play of the week, I was like, done. Like you like fireworks, end it, mic drop, like such a beautiful play, like just so cool.
Makes the trip home a little more enjoyable after something like that too.
So cool.
So cool. So cool. And we have some more cool stuff coming up too with the win in the whiff of the week.
All right, so my win of the week, I'm gonna let it play here, but giving some pitchers some love.
Now down to the count, 0-2, swing and a miss, strike 3. Carlin Pickens back-to-back strikeouts, 3 straight retired, ice in the veins of the junior Carlin Pickens.
So Carlin Pickens clocked out at 77 miles per hour against Oregon this weekend. They put out a tweet saying she had tied Monica Abbott for the fastest pitch recorded. And I just that's really unfathomable to think about. 77 is so fast. That's so fast. And yeah, I just, what a win. And I hope she plays softball forever, just like Monica Abbott. Keep following in those footsteps of doing some cool things. But just had to give a huge shout out to her because no matter where the ball is going, that's pretty awesome.
Well, the fact that it's two Lady Vols who made that history, the weeklies are thrilled. Let's put it that way. They're loving it. They are loving it, as they should. It was to see her throw in person again. It was insane. It was insane. You think about reaction time, that's easily triple digits in baseball if you want to do the equivalent math and all of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Crazy. And actually, Dana Sorensen, I mentioned, so the GM of the Blaze in the AUSL, she was a Stanford All-American pitcher, Hall of Famer. She also works deep in sports data, and she is very practical with things like that. And she's the one who told me about it. And she actually said, she was like, maybe we can get to 80 miles per hour. Now maybe I think it's possible after seeing it. And she's one of those people, it's if she says it, then it's legit a possibility because she doesn't just say things.
Sick. As a hitter, I hate to hear that. I really don't like to hear that. And Carlin is only a junior. She still has another year of college softball. So another year of getting better and another year of getting stronger. And then her whole professional career, I hope she wants to keep playing. So like you said, that's definitely, I can't see why she couldn't add some more miles per hour onto that, but which is pretty crazy.
Scary.
Oh, for sure.
Scary. Well, the same game that this happened is where our Whiff of the Week comes in. And there's some context around this. It's not really the game itself, the result. It was the way that this happened at the end in extra innings. So let's take a look.
Let's see. That's why they did the two walks. Pitch to Rosa. Swing and a miss. Ball gets away. Coming home is Luchar. Oregon wins. Ducks fly south to California and knock off Old Rocky Top 1-0 in walk-off fashion in the 8th.
You could hear the student radio announcers too with KWVA. We're thrilled, but if you're watching that, it stings a little, right? A pass ball is what brings the only run in a game. And what was a classic pitcher's duel with Pickens and Lindsey Grine, it hurts a little bit for the softball soul.
Totally. And such a clean game. I think that inning, there was a few balls that were a little bit wild and got past the catcher, but just, it was such a good game. So you just hate for it to happen like that. If, I whoever was meant to win, they were meant to win. I just would love it to be a walk-off hit rather than something like that.
100%. And I will say, catcher Sophia Nugent, she responded really well in the next game. So later that day, they rolled Oregon State, and she actually had 4 RBIs in that. And I talked with her after about the bounce back. So that's on our social media channels too. Take a look at it. And also the Summit Blues, the cool unis that they were wearing, but her makeup with the blue eyeshadow, and she had some bejeweled orange sparklies going on. All that was great, but the bounce back part and hearing her thoughts on it, I think important for young ones to hear too, because we have these moments. So how do you respond?
For sure.
But that's the win and Whiff of the week for this week. It feels like we could talk for hours more, but we have more softball coming up. The D1 team is going to be spread out around the country this weekend. Shelly Carlin's going to be at the Judy Garman tournament in Fullerton, another classic tournament that's been around. I've been telling people, I'm like, with Mary Nutter and Judy Garman, I actually played in those tournaments, so I feel a little bit better versus Clearwater, which existed after my time in college softball. I feel a little bit younger that way. But that's another great one. Justin McLeod will be doing a mid-major swing in Tennessee, and who knows, he's always all over the place. Might be elsewhere in the Southeast too. Eric Lopez from In the Circle, he's calling games at the UCF tournament. And like we said earlier, somehow conference play is already starting the first weekend of ACC play. I'll be tracking that closely. I'm actually calling women's gymnastics and baseball at Stanford this weekend, but softball is going to be on my screen on the side the whole time. So the whole squad covering everything in between to lots and lots to pay attention to once again. Amanda, I'm sure, as always, you're going to be locked in.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the UCLA LSU game on Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
LSU play a top 10 team is going to be exciting because they've had a great year so far, but I'm excited for their competition level to be up a little bit and see because UCLA has been playing great. They lost 2 heartbreakers, but other than that, they've had some great comebacks and have had a great year. So I think that one's going to be a great game. And Oklahoma State plays Nebraska this weekend. So I'm also excited about that. But just obviously we'll be tuned in to all the good softball. Can't wait to watch.
Oh, yeah. And, Ruby Malin and Jordy Ball grew up competing against each other too. So to see, hopefully, that matchup, right? You never know. Coaches make the decisions that they need to make for their teams. But to see that, I have to also say Jordy Ball's athleticism, very underrated all around. Pitching and hitting, of course, but even her base running, very smart. Anyway, that could be a whole other episode talking about her.
Yeah, I've heard from an inside. Tiari Jennings says that Jordy Ball was faster than Riley Boone. Riley Boone was really fast. So to make like a statement like, no, Jordy is fast, like that's incredible to her athleticism. Obviously, I know I've seen her have a few bunts for hits this year too, but I think we can't truly appreciate it with her not being from the left side, but I think we're going to continue to see really how athletic Jordy Ball is.
Totally. That's some tea right there. Tiari, thank you. Tiari. Now I'm going to call her. But for those, for those who stuck with us this long too, you get a treat, a little discount code from D1Softball for all types of subscriptions. Just use the code season25. I can't even describe how much content we have and how helpful it is. Seeing all the scores, for example, is one of people's favorite things about having access to the data. So take advantage while you can for 25% off. Season 25 is the code, all subscriptions. And with that, tell us again, we want to know what kind of content you're looking for. Let us know. We're here for it. And we're so appreciative of having you all join us every single week. Thank you.
Thanks for listening.